Welcome back. Most of the things that you will see in these two scripts you have seen thus far, nothing new there, but there is a lot of nesting. And there's one little small detail, actually two of them that we didn't do. Well, backslash t is a tab, and the dash e basically tells Echo to interpret this as a tab. This will be printed out like this, so instead of a space or something like that, if you insert /t, it will be like this. If you can watch the top portion. So if I press tab, you see what happens. Several spaces are inserted. I believe it is 4 spaces by default equals a tab, something like that. Doesn't really matter that it's configurable from one system to the other. Completely irrelevant. But it does give us the opportunity to actually output the code, to format our output rather well and make it readable. If you're wondering why I've set two terminals, one next to another as opposed to one below the other, we're going to have a bit of a longer output here from this script and from the two examples within this script, and I wanted to compare one line at a time with the script itself. So thus far, I've shown you how to use the break and continue to give you some degree of control over the loops and over their execution, but break and continue can also take parameters which define how many levels should they break or continue, or should continue skip. Anyway, the first example would be for break, and then the second example down below will be for continue. So you see the continue has been passed 3 and break has been passed 2. These are the parameters. You will see soon enough what they do. So let's go ahead and begin our analysis of the first example and see what happens here. So standard for loop, and we will be echoing within each loop which loop it is and which iteration of that loop are we going through. Basically echo loop 1 iteration $i, meaning first iteration, then second iteration, and so on. Second loop is going through here, and then we have a third loop beginning here. And within the confines of the third loop, there is an if statement, which basically states if k, meaning the third loop's basically this variable which will take on the values of 1, 2, 3, 4. If it is equal to 2, then break. But break what? Break 2. What does this break 2 mean? What does that represent? What does that symbolize? Well, it checks if k is equal to 2. And if k is equal to 2, it breaks 2 levels. So 2 levels. It will break out of the third and second loop. So third and second loop. And then it will continue the execution from there. Down below, we have a fairly similar example, if not almost the same, except we have continue instead of break. And continue will simply, if k is equal to 2, it will continue 3 levels. It will skip the rest of the third loop, the rest of the second loop, and jump to the next iteration in the first loop. I'm pretty sure that you can all see what is the first loop, what is the second loop, and what is the third loop. Pretty clear. So every 4 you can count for 1 loop. Okay, so let's go ahead and execute the script. Write it. Oops. There we go. So now you can see how it's kind of better in this particular example to have it like this. You can see here there's a single tab, and then there is a single tab here. Down below in the final and the third loop, there are 2 tabs, and therefore you have 2 tabs. So let's see what happens. We go into the for loop, and immediately we print out loop 1, iteration 1. Okay, so loop 1, iteration 1. Then we go into the second loop. Sorry, here you go, with j, and then we say echo with a tab. So there's a tab. Loop 2, iteration $j, since this is the first one, then it's 1. And then we go into the third loop. It says iteration $k, So k is here. The first value is 1. And you can see how this for loop has 1, 2, 3, 4. But the last, it says just 1, 2. It should be 1, 2, 3, 4. Why? Well, because there is a $k here, and in the if statement, in the nested if statement, where it states that if it is equal to 2, then break 2 levels. So let's see, where does it pick up from there? It says 1, 2, and break 2 levels. So what happens next? Next, it says loop 1, iteration 2. Okay, so if it breaks 2 levels, there's 1, 2, and then break 2 levels. This is the first level, and then this is the second level. We have broken out of those 2 levels, and we are in the first one, of course. Again, we begin, it says loop 1, iteration 2. So even though we have used a break statement, we have not completely broken out of this, or we haven't actually broken just out of this to go into this one. We haven't broken out of the last one to go to the before last one loop, however that sounds. Rather instead, I have stated that I would like to break out of this loop. And since I have 2 levels here, hey, break out of this one too, please. And then the machine will go 2 loops out and will go into the third one, which is the first one, and we'll begin executing from there. So the next iteration for I will be 2, and as you can see, loop 1, iteration 2, loop 2, iteration 1, and so on and so forth. It just begins again and again and again. You can see that loop 2 iteration is continuously 1. Why is that? Well, because of the break statement, really. Even though this one has 1, 2, and 3, this iteration never increases. Why? Well, again, because the break 2, there is no chance for it. We go into the first iteration here, echoes out, go into the first iteration here, echoes out, and then we go into the third loop, echo out, and as soon as the k becomes 2, it breaks 2 loops, and it skips the second loop's execution as well. So it skips the 2 levels, it skips the 2 iterations here in the second loop as well, and it continuously keeps going back to the first for statement. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the second script. So how many iterations did we have up here? 1, 2. So 1, 2. Excellent. There we go. 1, 2. So this is the first script. What I'm selecting now is the first script. You can see that the loop 2 iteration has not increased at all because we've been skipping it. And the script number 2, the example number 2 within the script begins here. So it's a bit of a bigger example, but oh wait, this is a previous rerun of the same command. It makes no difference. They're exactly the same. Same script ran twice. From my test runs anyway. So anyway, look, you have 1, 2, and this is the first example. And then we have the second example here. It begins from here basically. And I'm selecting the whole of it. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 iterations in total, and indeed there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 iterations in total here. So let's take a look at how that worked and what has happened here. Should function in a different fashion. It says loop 1, iteration 1. Okay, so loop 1, iteration 1, that's fine. And loop 2, iteration 1. And we go into the loop 2, the for loop. And okay, iteration 1. No, nothing strange there. All is fine and normal. And now, this is where the magic is supposed to happen, to put it so. In the third nested loop, echoes out the iteration of the third loop once, and it says if equal to 2, continue to 3. Sorry, I just have a screen, messed up screen on the other end. Anyway, 1, There we go. So it says loop 3, iteration 2, and once it reaches the second iteration, the value of k will become equal to 2. And then the continue command will be executed. But it says continue 3. So what does this continue 3 do? So, as I have stated, it will skip the rest of the third loop. So, iterations 3 and 4 within the third loop will not be performed at all. So these two iterations will not be performed due to the continue statement here. Now, the rest of the second loop shall be skipped as well. So, 4 statement here shall be skipped as well. There we go. So this iteration will be skipped as well. Hence, the loop 2 iteration does not increase at all. It stays continuously the same. And it will jump to the next iteration in the first loop. And here you can see the first iteration, the second iteration, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, therefore reflecting these here. So they just keep on jumping. I would advise you, I mean, I can explain this 100 times, but I would advise you to just play around with these numbers. You can leave the scripts as they are, but just try to change these values for break and for continue. Try putting in different numbers and try predicting what will happen. Envision what you want to happen. Basically, just envision that you would like this loop to skip to the second loop, or add another loop or something like that, and then change this value in accordance with your wishes and see if they come true. If not, try again. Anyway, that would be it as far as the break and continue statements are concerned. What remains is case and select constructs, but we will do that in the follow-up tutorial. Oh, by the way, if I again would like to remind everybody that, if you need help, the discussion section is always there for you. Somebody is there to help you out. Anyway, bid you farewell.